This episode of the MinnMax Show is brought to you by our standalone music podcast, CrossFade, which is hosted by music superfan Matt Helgeson, who's the former host of the Game Informer Show. Each episode, he has a special guest on, people like Alex Navarro from Giant Bomb, Jeff Green, Emily Reese, Mike Drucker, the cohorts have been on, and they review their favorite album and a new album picked by Helgeson. There have been some great discussions on David Bowie, Metallica, James Brown, Pink Floyd, Blink-182, Van Halen, the Hamilton soundtrack, the Tony Hawk soundtracks, C.W. McCall's classic song Convoy for some reason.
And choppers fill the skies. Whoa. Well, we shot the line.
He's literally talking about like military intervention to break up their convoy.
But they can't break up the convoy. That's what we're talking about.
They can't break up the convoy.
When we're
it's
united as a
indestructible.
convoy, the man can't shut us down.
On a recent episode, John Drake, formerly from Harmonix and PlayStation, was on the podcast and told the inside story about one of my favorite games of all time, Beatles Rock Band.
But we got to go on stage and play in front of the crowd at the E3 press conference for Microsoft. And we came off stage and Sir Paul McCartney just deadpanned 98%, really, in front of us.
So subscribe to CrossFade on your favorite podcast app and let us know what you think and leave a review. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello, how's it going?
Really, really well. And we have a very special guest, reigning music champion, I don't know how to phrase this, Emily Reese.
I love that. That's fantastic. It's the first time I've ever been champion of anything.
You are a champion. You are a music expert. You do such a great job throughout so many years of covering music. You were on the MinnMax Show last year talking about the best game soundtracks and the best tracks specifically from 2019. And it was so fun to listen to some great tracks that we said, hey, we have to do this again in 2020. So now is 2020. So thanks for joining us from your lovely living room.
Oh, yeah. It's a pleasure. It's fun to talk about music. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too. This is what's called easy podcasting, where you just play a track and then sit back and nod. This is your career, though, is just nodding to music through headphones.
It is, especially now since I do everything from home, since I do the radio show live every morning.
Do you want to give us the lay of the land? What might folks know you from in the video game music world?
In terms of the video game music world, I currently host a podcast called Level with Emily, or Level with Emily Reese, and that's on all the places. And before that, I hosted a show called Top Scorer at Minnesota Public Radio and American Public Media. So that's kind of what's up there. Yeah.
That is what's up there. Last year, you were on talking about Half-Life Alyx, and you had just released an episode that was like diving into the soundscape of Half-Life Alyx and talking about like the history of some folks at Valve. Am I nuts? Did those episodes ever come out about?
No, it has not come out yet.
Wow.
First of all, hashtag 2020. Let's just be clear.
Okay.
So we never got to go back, which was a bummer. And we've done almost all of our final interviews, and we're just it's just 2020 has been rough for everybody.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to start releasing the first round, hopefully before the end of the year. That would be a little shocking if that actually happens, but we're in literally everything is edited. It's just, we need one more interview, and it's been difficult to get that scheduled because there are some things that still aren't finished. So it's just, God, but I'll tell you what though, I've spent quite a bit of time analyzing the music. Did you guys play it? Did either of you guys
Kyle
play
did,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, I played it, yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of familiar with Mike's music in the game and stuff. It's
very
amazing.
moody and electronic and creepy. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and the scales he's using and like the ways in which he's using them and the patterns, and it's mind-blowing, and he and I are really excited to talk about it soon.
Awesome.
So yes. Is that a long, weird answer?
No, I think that covers it.
It's still going to happen.
I was thinking about last year's episode that I was scrolling through and be like, did those episodes ever come out? But that's totally fine. But you probably have covered so much great video game music from 2020 on the show. So you have you have an encyclopedic knowledge, I'd say, of video game music releasing this year and really throughout the last 10 years in the game industry. So I'm excited to have your mind directed towards 2020. We can talk about some of our favorite tracks here. Before we get to music, we should talk about the Game Awards. We're recording this before we've seen them, so don't expect any hot takes about the Game Awards and the reveals there. But if you'd like our reaction to that, we stream our reaction on YouTube. So if you're listening to this after the fact, you can go check out our archive to watch us react to some of the big reveals and all that fun stuff. Or if you're listening to this ahead of time, watching this ahead of time, you can tune in. I think we'll be starting at 6 p.m. Central on Thursday for the reactions on our YouTube channel. Also, wanted to plug that obviously this is the big week for Cyberpunk 2077. You're probably excited to start playing it. We are going to tackle it in the most thorough way possible with the Deepest Dive, which is the best, most thorough discussion about games on the internet. So we have the huge community game club. So the first episode of that is going to be airing next week, and it covers everything in the game through Act 1. So roughly 7 hours-ish. And we're going to put timestamps on for folks so we won't spoil the different classes and their starting areas. If you don't want to, you'll be able to jump around there. But if you want to join us for that, you can support us at Patreon at any tier and then submit a comment and we'll read it for the huge community game club discussion. Kyle Hilliard, sir, hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you feeling about, let's say, the soundtracks in general for 2020?
Well, so there's some big guns, like Final Fantasy VII Remake was a good soundtrack that I imagine will show up on your list.
Who can say? We each have our top 3. Who can say where it's going to land?
Yeah, and then the other big one this year I feel like was Streets of Rage 4.
Yeah.
Which I didn't play. So like I don't really have like feedback on that. You know what I mean? Like, but I know Serial like loves it and said he would, what did he say? He said he would go to the mat for the soundtrack to be on our Game of the Year list, but not necessarily the game itself, I think is how he phrased it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, outside of those, like I wasn't over the moon for a lot of stuff this year, but I definitely have tracks that I like and enjoyed. Yeah.
By the way, yeah, Patrick Polk from the community submitted a comment about how much he loved the Streets of Rage 4 soundtrack. So tip of the cap to Streets of Rage 4. This is very fun, Kyle, because it's a very audio-centric episode of the podcast. And don't be alarmed if you're listening to this. Kyle has what I can only imagine is 16 construction workers running around his house like an old Looney Tunes. What's going on in there, Kyle?
Yeah, but when we listen to the music, it's gonna be fine because I'm gonna turn off my mic and we can focus on that.
All right.
The timing is not great to have these contractors here, but it is what it is.
Hey,
It'll be dark in about 20 minutes, so
they'll get the hell out of there.
I don't know.
But Kyle, top 3 tracks for 2020. Do you want to kick this off and go with your number 3?
Yeah. So my number 3, and yeah, this is okay. So my number 3 is from Zombie Army 4.
Zombie Army 4.
Yeah, it's a track called Destroy the Brain or Remove the Head. And I first heard it actually with the Zombie Army 4 trailer.
Yeah.
And I just like fell in love with it. I was like, what is that song? It's very synthwavy and like very sort of like 80s horror kind of like, I don't know. I love it. It just got stuck in my brain and I'm obsessed with it. More so than the game itself.
All right, here's the track, Zombie Army 4.
The bass,
yeah,
it's really heavy, and it's just like that sort of synthy background. It's just like really eerie and creepy. I don't know. It just really clicks for me. I really love it.
Did this make you play the game?
Oh, well, IGN actually made me play the game.
I see.
I'm still freelancing that, yeah. But I like I said, I found it actually from the trailer. So I actually like found this track before I actually played the game.
That's so bizarre. Hey, Zombie Army 4. Dead War, giving it its due.
Nice.
Let's see, written.
It's weird to like say,
recorded by
"Hey guys,
me.
listen to this track," and then like we all make eye contact, and I'm just like, judge my decision.
That's the thrill of this episode every year, Kyle, is quietly judging everybody's taste. I still wake up in cold sweats because, last year I tried to say that the cool stadium song in Pokemon Sword and Shield was great, and Emily Reese said that's the biggest pile of trash I've ever heard in my life.
What?
I believe that was an exact quote, verbatim, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I was there. We don't need to check the tape. I can confirm.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Emily, number
I have to
3.
listen back. Number 3, it's so funny. I didn't know I had to rank them.
Oh,
and
of
so then I
course.
had to write them all down and be like, I think number 3 is probably the track I chose from Spiritfarer,
Ooh,
which
yeah.
is a game that was almost too sad for me to play in 2020. You know what I mean? It was almost too sad of an experience.
Just too much about
at
death.
At times I was just like, this is too much.
Yeah.
But just such a beautiful game. Did you guys play it?
Those hug animations are too good.
Dude,
They're
I mean,
so-
just don't even stop it. It's like you might as well just put Baby Yoda up in front of it or something like that. But I can't even. But it's such a beautiful game, and I also kind of want to echo Kyle what you were saying about how you didn't play Streets of Rage, so you don't, that music doesn't quite resonate and I realized that I chose music from games I played. And so it does matter, right?
Yeah.
It can really influence. So anyway, I played the shit out of Spiritfarer then and loved it. And I really love the Hummingbird track. And there's the latter half of it is just really beautiful little clarinet and flute duet or something like that. And
Yeah, should we jump into it?
adorable. Yeah, let's hear it. That part's great too. Yeah, the opening part is great.
with Ben Hansen squawking over it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just think that's beautiful writing. I just love that so much. And it's just so small, it's so short and intimate and lovely.
Yeah, when I was thinking about the soundtrack to Spiritfarer, I thought of, maybe it's because the song that really drives into your soul, but the plant growing song that you have to constantly repeat on the guitar. That was up there for me, just a good simple track that I just love doing that simple input over and over again.
Yep, that was amazing. Yep.
My number 3 is I was debating between a couple things, and I'm sorry to kick this off on such a downer note, but this is from the ending of Dreams, kind of the grand finale for Dreams, the campaign in Dreams for Media Molecule, if you want to put it that way. But in the game, you're kind of trying to get the main character's life back together and kind of reassemble a band. And when the band's all together, there's this song that just plays at the end, and it's just an awesome visual experience, as you can imagine. Basically, Media Molecule doing a music video for this song, which is a cover from a band called Bad Bad Not Good. But this is...
Oh.
Do you know them?
Well, yeah, they're a Canadian band, and they've actually done Zelda and before. They've done covers from games
really?
before.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Now their song is covered in Dreams, but yeah, this is called Time Moves Slow, which I thought was appropriate for 2020. So here's Time Moves Slow from Dreams.
Talk to me. Time moves slow.
there we go. Sorry to bum everybody out, but that's Time Moves Slow
great.
from Dreams. Yeah, something a little bit different. Not exactly chiptunes. But I love that, Media Molecule, their soundtracks to Little Big Planet games were so fantastic. And I love Dreams just has so many weird, quirky songs. There's a password song, which is insane, but I like their tradition of choosing some, off the beat music choices for their games here.
Yeah, they've always been amazing at that.
Yeah. Kyle, number 2, what do you got, man?
Number 2 is a game that I'm sure I'll be talking a lot more about.
Kyle, aren't those contractors getting closer and closer to you every time it's your turn to talk?
Yeah, that's how fast it is.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
But the Pathless. The Pathless, a fantastic game from the art director of Journey. The soundtrack is from Austin Wintory, who also did the soundtrack from Journey. And this is one of the boss tracks. So if you can imagine in this sequence, you're like flying through a forest that's literally on fire, chasing down like a giant beast that's just like trying to outrun you. It's awesome.
Well, here we go. Cernos from the Pathless.
It is like it builds and does different things. Later in the track there's like throat singing and stuff like
this
that.
part here, yeah,
and every boss like has that sequence where you chase them through a flaming forest, and everyone has their own soundtrack, but this one happened to be my favorite.
Interesting. Yeah, for a section there it sounded like the Robin Hood theme combined with your contractors banging randomly, which is perfect.
Yeah, those French horns are amazing.
Yeah, it's so easy just to put composers. Yeah, but it's so easy to like put composers in a box or just be like, Austin Wintory, he's going to do like Journey-like soundtracks. I think I get it. And then when I heard what he was going for the Pathless, it's just, this is completely different than I expected.
Yeah, he's also credited as the electric kazoo player in the credits.
Okay.
Which is weird.
That's great.
Give him his due.
I Googled it. It's not a thing.
Emily?
Yeah.
Your number 2?
Number 2 is from Ghost of Tsushima because... yes.
You got to do it.
The first time I ever sat down and did the haiku thing. Did you guys play Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the haiku thing
might be the best game of the year. I don't want to get ahead of it.
Ooh, interesting take, Kyle.
Just such a moving experience, and every game I've played this year has been a super profound experience, just given the situation and everything, and this game has made me think about things, and I've just experienced it differently than I think I would have experienced it a year ago.
Huh.
And I have, I think, much more patience for a scene like the haiku scenes, because it's really slow moving, and you can rush through it if you want, but it just pays off to just be peaceful with those scenes, And I just found the music that plays, which is, just a single voice over what I think is a biwa, which is a Japanese lute kind of thing. It's just beautiful. I think it's beautiful. So
great. Yeah.
Anyway, this is the haiku music called, I think, Forgotten Song or something like that.
Yeah,
I think it's called.
I think that's right.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a biwa. I don't think that's a biwa, but it's just beautiful instrumentation. And then when the orchestra comes in, it's so pretty too, and the flute, and it's beautifully done. Everything in that game, man.
Emily Reese, music expert. How many instruments are there?
How many instruments are there?
How many instruments right now could you name? Like, I could do the same with Kyle with Pokemon or something, but if you were like locked in a room and had to name instruments, are we talking 150? What are we up to?
Oh, I could probably name hundreds, but I mean, probably just in Western culture. And then there are so many instruments from other cultures, many of which I'm not very good at naming. Like just that instance, to me, that sounds like a pipa, which is a Chinese lute. And I know they wouldn't have done that. Look,
Emily, I know you think you can get away with just making up words because we're not experts. But
yeah, is that a biwa or a pipwa? I forget exactly which one it is.
But no, I seriously, I can't. I mean, someone like Austin Wintory, for instance, would be able to be like, oh, that's a this, because he's composed with them and studied for various projects and stuff. So composers especially video game composers, tend to be really good at naming instruments from cultures other than the Western classical tradition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just there alone, there's dozens and dozens,
I'm amazed by your knowledge. Well, this probably has more recognizable instruments. My second favorite track is from a little indie RPG, kind of a turn-based strategy RPG. You can compare the combat in the game to the Mega Man Battle Network games, but it's called Ikenfell. Is the name of the game. It's about witches in the forest. Ikenfell, and this is the battle theme to Ikenfell. Ikenfell, and people in the Backstage Pass watching us live at the $10 tier mentions, or this week in video games specifically mentions that the game's out on Game Pass as well, if anybody wants to check out Ikenfell there. But
yeah, I like that a lot. I hadn't heard that. A little bit of Gerudo in there from Zelda and like some chiptune-y stuff. I like that a lot.
It's just such a weird fusion of, kind of the chiptune layer on top of a more folksy feel. Emily, put better words in my mouth.
No, I love that like hybrid nature. When the chiptunes came in, it was great, but it did sound, kind of almost Celtic for half a second there, just because that upper voice sounds a little bit like an Irish flute kind of thing, But yeah, no, that was great. Kind of hillbilly a little bit of bluegrass in there kind of feel.
It's really got it all. Kyle, are we at number one? Your number one favorite track from 2020?
Yeah, man, we did it.
All right, take it away.
It's from Hades. Hades has such fantastic music. I mean, it's funny. What's it? Supergiant. I've only dabbled in most of their games, but
really?
I've like listened to their soundtracks like excessively. Like I love the Bastion soundtrack.
Yeah.
And this is like, goes toe to toe with that. Like the Hades music is fantastic, and you hear it a lot because you're looping through the game often.
Yeah. I always every time I have to like test out a sound system, or if I'm plugging equipment in for some reason, just whenever I need to test out, does this have audio right now? I just go to YouTube and type in video game soundtracks. And it's always the Bastion full soundtrack up on top. I don't know if that's like, is tailor-made for me or what, but it's always bizarre. But okay, here is The Painful Way from Hades.
ready to fight some demons. You're getting excited, you know?
I don't care for that talking part. Awesome. Yeah, Hades was a fan favorite for sure. A lot of people from the community submitted tracks from Hades as well, but
So good.
Yeah, what's that background? I mean, Emily, correct me. It's almost like theremin-ish, like a little bit, just kind of this like moan in the background that's just sort of consistent. I love that.
Play me a little bit of it again. I was listening more to the like sitar thingy happening in there.
I have bad news. I already closed out of it. Sorry.
Oh.
You'll never know. You'll never know.
Yeah,
but
you'll
a great
never know.
track. Yeah, love this whole soundtrack for that game. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Darren Korb. He's a champ. He is class act.
Yeah, Jim Chatterton in the community submitted a track and also mentioned that Darren Korb is just a master. So here's
He is.
Jim Chatterton's track is Out of Tartarus. And then John Skovic also submitted that track, but a later portion of it here. So here's John's favorite part of this track. Hell yeah.
I expect Zach De La Rocha to just start rapping like at any moment.
I feel like I need to learn how to play guitar just so I can play that part in the beginning. Wouldn't that feel satisfying? Like you can feel the physicality of him strumming the guitar in the opening. It's just incredible.
Yes.
Let's see. All right. Where are we at? Number 1, Emily Reese?
Number 1, man. I love this soundtrack so much from Steve Pardo. And it's for a game called Signs of the Sojourner. Did you guys play Signs of the Sojourner?
I don't even know if I've heard of it. What is it?
I didn't even play. Actually, I didn't play Signs of the Sojourner. Crazy. I said that I chose tunes from games I played. I did not play Signs of the Sojourner.
Feels like it.
It's I guess like a card game, but more advanced like that. And you build relationships and trade cards as you travel.
Huh.
And I'm not really sure. But the music is fantastic, and I will listen to that soundtrack for the rest of my life. Like I love having it on in the background, and to me, I mean that's such a different experience than, you know, like if I listen to Ghost of Tsushima out of the game, it's still a great soundtrack, but the experience isn't as good to me as enjoying the music with the game. And this Signs of the Sojourner, I just think the whole soundtrack is amazing. So Steve Pardo used to work with Harmonix,
Oh, really?
At Harmonix, and now works. I can't remember the name of the studio, but
is it Skew Sound?
Yeah, Skew Sound.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, that's the name of the sound studio. So they do audio for games, music, sound effects. They help with voiceover stuff like that. So
nice. I'll play the track here. By the way, Emily, I think your microphone's rubbing up against your shirt if you want to watch that. But here's
bummer.
Signs of the Sojourner. What? This is great. This is so unexpected. Every layer of that song is like, what genre is this? What is this thing?
I know, and the whole record sounds like that, and it's absolutely fantastic. Like I literally was just like, I'll just send him that track. I mean, it wasn't even like that's my favorite track. Like I just love that. It's so good. So good. Yeah.
That's wild. Thanks for
Yeah,
putting that
I
on the
never
radar.
heard it. That was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot recommend listening to the whole soundtrack enough. Like seriously, I really recommend it. It's so good.
The names of all these games are in the descriptions below, by the way, if you want to make sure you're spelling it right, if you want to look them up a little bit more. My number one track of the year is probably not a big surprise. Final Fantasy VII Remake
There it is.
is probably the greatest video game soundtrack known to man.
I didn't even know that came out this year. No, I'm just kidding.
Emily, I know you love Western RPGs more than JRPGs, but did you check out Remake soundtrack at all?
I listened to it. Yeah, I listened to it for sure. And it's amazing. I mean, of course it's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's listen to... God, choosing a favorite is impossible, but I'm going with... It's called The Valkyrie. It's for a pretty forgettable boss fight, I think like in chapter 15, but here's The Valkyrie from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Obviously, that entire soundtrack is amazing. I love Valkyrie in particular just because as far as I can tell, it's not building on anything from the original game. It's just a wholly original song. But I mean, the remixes, how they add and extend all the tracks from the original game, it's incredible. There's a lot of incredible parts about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I just think about like that audio team, you know, and like there's 3 composers. So it's Uematsu, who's the original composer, and then Hamauzu and Suzuki. But just imagine that team like feeling that weight of responsibility of, oh my gosh, we have to make the soundtrack to a new version of Final Fantasy VII. How do they top it? And out of any department working on that game, I feel like they just went above and beyond and blew us away. It's just amazing. There's obviously more tracks from this game that we should probably play a little bit. So one of them is their version of the boss fight theme, which in the remake you hear with like the Sentinel Scorpion boss fight at the beginning is just an amazing rendition. Obviously this part here, a lot of people, it's their favorite track, but they extended it and added even more than you can imagine here. So for the Airbuster boss fight, this is what it sounds like now. I mean, to take already one of the most badass songs from Final Fantasy VII and then to add that chorus to it is just awesome. Okay, last one with the boss theme, I promise. But somebody else submitted this in the comment as well. But the Hell House music. Let's play a little bit of this.
Wait, hold on. Can you explain what's happening in this scene to Emily?
Emily, you know, like how you feel about your house at the end of 2020 where you just hate it and it feels like a fiery inferno that you have to battle every day. That's what this is about. It's about fighting your house. Okay, here's Hell House.
Literally
everybody.
a boss battle against a house. It's a house that moves around and you fight it.
And there's announcers like from the WWE screaming at you about what a son of a this house is. Okay, here we go.
All right.
It's so ridiculous.
Fantastic.
Just beating the crap out of the front door of a house with a bat with nails in it.
For way too long because I wasn't using the correct strategy. So it really was like a 45-minute fight. And I didn't care because like that 8-minute track just kept looping and it's just ridiculous.
That's amazing.
And okay, I promise this is the last one, but it wouldn't be right if we didn't play this song from Final Fantasy VII Remake. They created a new character called Stamp, who's a lovable little puppy. And this is Stamp's theme from Final Fantasy VII Remake.
It's a good boy who never stops. Keeping nice in his day for each and every one. He'll always take him back a bite, and I can never stay into the next week. Go all and little step. You got so much courage and everybody thinks you are so well. Even though you get distracted by a treatment wing away. Even though you don't remember how to see or how to stay. Fight for us, little step.
It's like it's a real TV intro from the 70s. Like I can't imagine how that team put that weird song together. I love it so much.
Like, how did that one rate lyrics? You know what I mean? Like, what makes them decide, oh, this one needs lyrics?
I know. Well, it's like, I guess the in-world commercial propaganda of this stupid mascot for Shinra. But yes, it's bizarre. Kyle, did you have more honorable mentions?
I had one, wanted to get a nice chiptune track in there that I sent you from a game called Kunai, which was kind of a Metroid-y sort of pixel game. I don't know, wasn't that it wasn't really pixel art, but I really liked it. It's a great game, and I liked this track in particular.
Sweet. This is Battle Cruiser from Kunai.
Real like Game Boy and Mega Man X energy, which is a nice overlap for me.
It's perfect for you. That's sweet. Kunai Battle Cruiser. Good choice. Here's another one from a game that I don't think they're supporting anymore, but I think it's still live, which is called Darwin Project, which is like a small scale, very Hunger Games inspired battle royale. But I can't find the name of the composer, but it's so wild. So think Hunger Games, and then this is the main menu theme. So weird to have like the raspy breathing in there. What would you call that, Emily?
That's strange. I'd call that weird raspy breathing.
Yes, music expert.
Yeah.
And they nailed it though. Like I can see holograms of teenagers' faces like in the sky.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, you get the idea. We have other tracks that were submitted by the community. A lot of love. First of all, a lot of love for Persona 5 Royal and its soundtrack, but it was tough to know. I don't know what's a new track, what's an old track.
I actually considered adding that, even though I didn't play it. I just listened to my wife play it so much. But like it was like that came out last year as the soundtrack from last year. But like, yeah, that soundtrack is so good for sure.
Also, Hunter S. Sachs wanted to remind us that The Last of Us Part 2 had an amazing soundtrack. I don't know if there was one standout track, but Emily, did you have thoughts on that soundtrack overall?
I loved that soundtrack. I think I liked the first one a little better. But, but I feel like I liked everything about the first one a little better.
Interesting.
Than the second one. But
it's the only media period that has a really like sad, affecting cover of Aha's Take on Me.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
With all these covers, I love it. So good.
So we had a lot of people write in as well about Ori. And the Will of the Wisps.
That was going to be one of my honorable mentions for sure. Will of the Wisps. I mean that was so good. Yeah, so beautifully done.
Lucy Yearwood wrote in about it. Also, Jeremy Clark. Here's Jeremy Clark's favorite song, which is called "A Shine Upon Inkwater Marsh." Ori, and the music was composed by Gareth Coker. That's his name, right, Emily?
Yep, Gareth Coker, and he's just fantastic. And man,
yeah,
I mean that's all real, obviously real instruments and huge orchestra, and just everything bigger and better. I mean, the first story was amazing in every way, and this one was just more amazing in more ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, the music for that's so good. God, I love that track too. I'm so glad that who sent that in. Good job, person.
Jeremy Clark, hero of the
Good
people.
job, Jeremy Clark. Yes.
And then Gareth had a crazy year because Gareth also wrote Immortals Fenyx Rising, that Ubisoft game. And I think it has a really strong main theme here. Gadoosh!
Nice.
He has found his groove. Do you think it's frustrating for composers just to be like, okay, you're the kind of dreamy, fantastical composer, make us a theme that sounds like Ori?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I guess it depends on how many zeros are in the paycheck.
Yeah,
How
see how
annoying it is.
Ubisoft can really do it here. We had more community submissions here. James Smith had an unusual submission, but I love it. He says, I think this has to be the... Well, hang on. I think this has the potential to be one of the most underrated soundtracks of the year, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Its music perfectly evokes a theme of exploration and relaxation that I'd expect from that game. But here's some Microsoft Flight Simulator music.
Looking at the temperatures for the rest of the week, you know.
Yeah,
It's nice though.
Good. That's not an insult. I really like.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
part of
it's
me it's
nice.
like, well, that's of course what a Flight Simulator soundtrack should sound like. But it's like, oh no, there's still a lot of skill involved in making something that's soothing. Gabe Brandolino says Call of Duty 17, Black Ops 5, Cold War has a soundtrack that really surprised me this year. Comrades in Arms is my particularly favorite track. And I guess this was composed by Jack Wall. And didn't he do Mass Effect 1, Emily?
Yeah, he's done actually a couple different Call of Duty games as well. But yeah, he did the first Mass Effect. It's so good.
It's so good. All right, here's some music from Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. There we go. Call of Duty, everybody. Hey,
I've always
there's a
appreciated
little
that.
synth snuck in there, you know?
Yeah.
Little Mass Effect synth just in the
For
background.
sure.
well, that's set in the 80s. Yeah, you got to have some of that going in there.
I just like how they do spend money on their music, which is, you know, because they could just, and they don't, and it's nice.
Yeah.
I like that about them.
That is true. Just put some snare drums in there, and that's just on loop. But yeah, it is always interesting. Medi Monster wrote in, just wanted to give a shout out to Risk of Rain 2, saying it has the perfect music for exploring an alien planet. Let's hear this real quick.
So good, yes.
There you go, Kyle. There's your synth quota.
Nice.
Yeah, it's met officially. Gonna go track that one down.
We hit it. Ben Van Houten says, hey, everybody, just wanted to pop in and say that for my money, I think the best video game track this year is Midnight Rendezvous from Final Fantasy VII Remake. As much as I enjoyed the Doom Eternal music, I feel like this track in particular is so aching and pretty, it makes me want to die in the best way possible. Oh, cool. Here's Midnight Rendezvous from Rendezvous? Why can't I say that right? Rendezvous
Track
from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Another new track. It's amazing how much it fits into that old groove of Final Fantasy VII where it doesn't seem too jarring or out of place. Matt Lynch has to mention it. Astro's Playroom, GPU Jungle. Do you know this song, Emily?
No,
Okay, this is a level that takes place inside of the PlayStation 5's GPU. And the song, well, here it is. GPU, everybody, the GPU jungle. That's from Kenny Young. And I think when we talked about Astro's Playroom,
Kenny.
Yeah, on the podcast, Kyle, I think I was like, it's just kind of like recycling a lot of other tracks from Astro, but turns out there's a lot of original music in there, and I kind of undersold it, I think, at first brush.
Kenny Young, did the first Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
And the second one, yeah.
Yep. He's in that cool, hip Sony circle. But another great soundtrack from him. Let's see. One after 909, wanted to recommend a track from Paradise Killer. Here's, what is it called? Paradise Stay Forever from Paradise Killer.
Come on,
That's going to stand
So
out in any game you're playing. It's just like, what is this soundtrack? This is awesome.
I feel like it could be like GTA Vice City or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Tommy Vercetti is going to walk through the door.
Cree McGee says, one of my favorite songs from this year is one of the most underappreciated games as well. It was mentioned last week, but Paper Mario and the Origami King. It's called Sweet Paper Valley, and it really is just a very fun, catchy take on a Whistle Morricone Western theme, but worth playing. Is this Hades? Never mind. There we go. Always fun to hear. And then last one, David Arlene just had to mention that the Turkey Day theme from Animal Crossing absolutely slaps. Here's the Turkey Day Animal Crossing theme. I'm envisioning like a parade through the streets of New Orleans where everybody's dressed up as their favorite turkey.
It's a little soft. It's a little softer than New Orleans, though. Right?
I was going to say like maybe Pensacola, Florida or something.
And then also, Tada Do had to slip in there that the 5 p.m. theme from Animal Crossing is not messing around. Here's the 5 p.m. theme from Animal Crossing New Horizons. When you're just getting some chores done at 5 p.m., this is the sound of 5 p.m., everybody.
Or, getting into your Nintendo 64 gyrocopter to fly across something that kind of looks like the United States, but it's a little bit, this is a Pilot Wing 64.
Hey, man, we're picking it up.
I like it, though. I like this one. I like this one more than the turkey one.
You're bashing the good turkey song, Kyle? Outrageous.
Turkey Day was pretty great.
Thanks to everybody that submitted tracks. There was a lot of fun. I was just having a lot of Persona 5 Royal, so thank you so much, everybody. Good year for game music. I think there's a lot of fun stuff out there, so hopefully we opened your eyes a little bit to something that you weren't listening to before. Kyle, do you have any wise words before we let you go?
Try to schedule contracting jobs around recording sessions.
Okay, great. Yeah, please write that down. Please remember that. Let that be your New Year's resolution for 2021, everybody. Kyle, do you want to clap out of here, dude?
Here I go.
Ana Diaz and Jeff Marchia Fava, welcome to the podcast.
We did it.
You did it. Thank you for being here. Ana, can we hear that voice, please? Hang on, is your audio working? Okay, I think it's slowly coming through, inch by inch.
Wait, really?
It just cuts out. It never lets you say hi. That's the weird thing about your mic.
Yeah, it's, you know what, it's too smart for me. It's just, it thinks that it's my cat meowing in the background, and it's like, we don't want that.
Right. Well, you say hello by saying hello and not the word meow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, each their own.
That is technically true.
Jeff, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Apples?
That's right, everybody. Apples, which you can find at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. We are a crowd-funded organization. Thanks, everybody, for your support. If you support us at any tier, you get access to the wonderful Discord. You're able to submit comments for the show, questions for us to read, unlock podcast versions of The Deepest Dive, like on Cyberpunk 2077, all that fun stuff. But we have some wonderful supporters, including a handful of new supporters. Anna?
including Pretty Good Printing. PrettyGoodPrinting.com is an online print shop that offers flyers, invitations, stickers, banners, and more. I've spent years opening and managing print shops for others, yada, yada, yada. I figured it was finally time to do it myself. Soon, the website will have customizable templates as well as theme sticker packs with custom designs. If there is something specific you need, feel free to reach out via the contact page and use the promo code MinnMax for 10% off your order. And just for reference, it's Pretty Good Printing, pretty with 2 T's.
And then the promo code MinnMax with 2 N's. Anna, I thought that was really rude of you to yada yada your way through this ad. They're paying us and supporting MinnMax.
Oh, I was reading the copy word for word. But you know what? Here's what I'll say. I'll do a little off scripting here. Some yada yadas, if you will.
Please.
If you're looking for a place to, make specialized like meme stickers or game stickers, or like me personally, like, oh, maybe you want to get some anime boy stickers, you should check them out.
I was just thinking about Pretty Good Printing the other day because I was thinking about gifts for my sister, and she's really tough to buy gifts for, but she's like, we went to her house in Duluth over the summer, and she has like Post-it notes everywhere where she wrote like positive messages on it, like embrace the day, a rainbow will fill your mouth, or whatever, just that type of stuff. And so I was like, God, what would be a good gift? And I thought, I took pictures of all of her sayings because I wanted to do something with them. And I'm like, I should just print out a bunch of stickers from Pretty Good Printing with her favorite sayings that she could just slap on, I don't know, oncoming traffic. I don't know what exactly she wants to do, but that's prettygoodprinting.com, everybody. Check them out and use the promo code MinnMax because they support us. We appreciate it. Also, thanks. Oh, hang on. I shouldn't even set this up. This is a natural delivery. Hey, Jeffem, do you like puzzle games?
Do I?
Well, then you should.
do.
Good. Then please check out Opposwitch. Now available on Xbox. Opposwitch features over 90 handcrafted levels and a randomizer for never-ending puzzles. Inspired by classic games such as Lights Out and Hexic, it's a logic game that's fun for the whole family. And get this. Opposwitch was developed by Rich McLaughlin, longtime supporter of MinnMax. Drop in the Discord and ask him about Opposwitch, indie game development, or just thank him for supporting the show. The best part, it's just $5 for Opposwitch. Unwrap some fun this holiday season with Opposwitch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, Rich developed his own game, Opposwitch, released on Xbox, and I was like, why Xbox and nothing else? He's like, I just like Xbox. So he pointed out that it's technically an Xbox exclusive, so check out Opposwitch. He sent a code my way as well, and it was like, oh, this is a really interesting idea that I had never experienced in a game before. We're just unlocking a grid. It's very hard to describe, but check it out. It's only $5. If you like puzzle games that get progressively more difficult. But I was like, I'll check it out for a couple minutes. Ended up playing for quite a while. It is surprisingly addictive. So check out Opposwitch on Xbox there. Also, hey, check out This Week in Video Games for your regular fix on the latest reviews, news, features, and interviews from the world of gaming. Whether you're into next-gen platforms, indie gems, or interviews with industry experts, This Week in Video Games has you covered. There's a podcast every 2 weeks, along with bonus news roundup shows when major news drops. This Week in Video Games also specializes in Destiny 2 content, covering everything from the latest goings-on in Beyond Light to useful guides for exotic weapons and also builds, as well as guides for making your Guardian even more powerful. I also delve into the lore explaining the stories and mysteries of Destiny. If you want to level up your Guardian and get hold of all the best weapons, armor, and mods the game has to offer, then search This Week in Video Games on YouTube and subscribe for daily Destiny updates. As well as Destiny content, This Week in Video Games focuses on some of the best indie gems out there. There are interviews with Inkle Studios, Polygon Treehouse, and Fail Better Games, plus many more. So if you're interested in hearing from developers, designers, voice actors, and writers and how they make games, subscribe to This Week in Video Games today. If you want your gaming content with a British twist, check out This Week in Video Games on YouTube, the website, thisweekinvideogames.com, or on all your favorite podcast apps. Thank you to all of our new supporters. We appreciate you supporting MinnMax, and we get to plug your wonderful stuff. And I love it when it's people from the community that have been around for a long time. Also, thanks to I Am 8-Bit, going way back. They want everybody to know that they have a PlayStation 5 physical edition of the Pathless from Annapurna in their store. It comes with a giant fold-out poster, reversible cover, chic collectible art cards, exclusive artwork by Emmy winner Elaine Lee, and it's worldwide compatible. Also, they have the vinyl soundtrack to the Pathless, composed by Austin Winnery, which has a song that Kyle coincidentally also featured as one of his favorite songs from 2020. So get that song on vinyl and help support I Am 8-Bit because they support MinnMax. And you can use the promo code MinnMaxmas. for 10% off everything in their store under $100. Thanks to I'm 8-Bit for supporting us. We choose something. No, we choose our favorite question of the week every single week, and then I Am 8-Bit ships out something from the wonderful store as a huge thank you because they're very generous with our community. And so this week, our favorite question of the week will win the Watam soundtrack. It's a double LP vinyl soundtrack from Watam from last year. So let's get to these community questions.
Hanson,
yes, sir.
That was MinnMax, like XMAS, right?
MinnMax.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said MinnMax must, which sounded a little weird.
I was going to ask, how's that spelled?
It's like Christmas.
Yeah, like Christmas.
How do you say
Christmas?
Christmas? How do you? There's a fine line
Christmas.
there. I don't know how to
Miss,
speak.
Right?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Like a Chris Swiss miss. Anyways, hey, Gio Banogi writes in and says, "Ahoy, MinnMax crew. Few games I feel have reached the ubiquity of Skyrim. I feel like I can mention that game to almost anyone and they would have some idea of what I was talking about. Do you think Cyberpunk will hit that same level of fame or will it be too niche to make a name for itself in the wider world?" I think that is a tall order. I know expectations are very high and judging from the internet, hype is very real for Cyberpunk. Now we're unpacking it on our own, but I think expecting it to hit Skyrim levels is insane.
Yeah, I think the two things about that is I think that nothing comes close to the broad appeal of fantasy when it comes to RPGs. Like that is kind of the classic adventure that kind of everyone can get behind. And also I think the modding is what has really kept Skyrim relevant for so long, for over a decade or whatever crazy amount of time
9
it's been.
years,
That is what has really kept it going, along with being on every single platform that has ever come out. I don't know that any Cyberpunk themed thing will ever be able to come close to that.
Well, I'm trying to even remember how big was the modding with Witcher 3. I guess I didn't see it to that same extent that Skyrim is, but that is such a high bar again. But yeah, there's definitely, it has reached that layer beyond the casual gamer though. I mean, Cyberpunk is going to sell bananas and it'll continue to sell well next year when the actual next gen versions come out instead of just people playing the old gen versions on their new systems and stuff. But I mean, Emily, don't you have a Skyrim tattoo?
I do, yeah. I do.
There it is. Sweet. And on the other arm, do you want to reveal your Cyberpunk tattoo, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. I think when Skyrim came out, remember 11/11/11 is when that game came out.
Yeah, who can forget?
So, I think there weren't many games out like that then. And I think now with Cyberpunk, there have been so many amazing open world RPG experiences. And Skyrim was special for different reasons that Cyberpunk can't measure up to, even though I'm super excited about it. And honestly, I'm almost more excited about the music. I think that's going to be amazing. And I so can't wait to play it. But I don't know, man, I think there's something about Skyrim. Also, don't forget that people had years invested in the lore and of Skyrim too,
but
all the Morrowind freaks and all the Oblivion freaks. And I mean that from a place of love and understanding.
Yeah, those Morrowind degenerates.
New. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, there's a Cyberpunk tabletop crowd. I mean, it's kind of that similar fandom rolling in, I guess, in some way. But I'm just stunned by the expectations and the fandom around Cyberpunk. I know CD Projekt Red, they've had their stumbles for sure. We can talk about it. But they have done such an amazing job at courting this kind of, I don't know, gigantic underdog spirit amongst a lot of gamers. And it's through things like having free upgrades to the next gen and stuff like that. I feel like they have just had the gamer in mind for a lot of their decisions, which is appreciated by this fandom, which now has maybe turned in some ways in certain aspects of the internet, because it can be a bit brutal for how much love there is for CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk in particular. But Kieran Robinson is getting into it, saying, hey, y'all, reading about all the backlash that Callie of GameSpot has received for her review of Cyberpunk 2077, which had some very valid points, and also the hate that Liana of Game Informer is getting for just warning people about the potential epilepsy issues that they may face with the game. Why do you think that this has become such a big deal for folks, considering most haven't played the game yet? Is it just the anticipation that is driving people crazy? I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure it'll be a great game, but I can't understand why people are getting so worked up. It kind of sucks. Yes, it does. It's tough. There's a part of me that just wants to be like, yeah, there's shitty people on the internet. There's going to be a shitty sliver of fandom for almost every game out there. Is it really worth acknowledging? But it does seem like there is a larger percentage of that pie with Cyberpunk 2077. Is that just because the pie is so big? Because there's so many people looking forward to it?
Yeah, it might be, kind of based on the amount of hype that something gets.
Yeah.
Because the other one that it reminds me of all the time is No Man's Sky, which was also like people had such high expectations going into it that it seemed to be tapping deeper into something that people have really pinned like some hopes and dreams onto these kind of games.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is that the developers also get death threats just for delaying it. It's like this weird, like, we're going to defend this game to the death against people that we presume are trying to attack it for something, but then also we're going to attack the people making the game too if we have to wait a little longer to play it. It's just it seems like a frenzy at this point.
Well, yeah. And I think, something's to be said, something that's maybe like been, slowly, becoming maybe more, like worse and worse of an issue over like the past decade is like the general social media economy and like the attention economy and just like, this general sort of system that creates like, okay, like really flamboyant, really like spicy takes are going to get you like the most interaction. It's sort of like you get a lot of social sort of clout, it's like, okay, I get 70 likes for saying something way more, controversial. And so like, it's also, I think, showing this like larger issue with Twitter as well.
So it's just, people attacking will be like, well, I'm going to attack it in the most extreme way. I'm going to go after this reviewer just to get attention.
Maybe, I don't know. It's like if people necessarily want, I definitely have gone to some of these Twitter pages and see like, okay, like who's sending my friend death threats, like what kind of person it is. And in some of those cases, it is people, like it definitely looks like a person who wants attention. Sometimes it looks like a bot. It's like, okay. And then other times it's sort of like, I think that it's just so easy. There's like actually a really good short book on this, but it's like kind of like a high that's just present in sort of internet culture. And I definitely do think it's worse in games though. If you look at sort of like the history of how these cultures were built up, like that definitely doesn't bode well for, where we are now. Like, I feel like gamers have gotten so used to getting everything that they want. There's a sort of, or just fandom in general seems really entitled these days. And I think that causes a lot of problems because it's not just in video games, but.
Right. You could go back to, not that this is ancient history, but I wonder how much, and I always think of the Mass Effect 3 ending.
That's exactly what I think of.
Oh, really? In terms of just like, all right, there's an outcry on the internet and let's just cobble something together and get it out the door. And like, I visited BioWare, 4 times, but like especially after that ending, I think it was like the Dragon Age Inquisition cover story trip with Game Informer. It was, I cannot undersell how serious that was in the studio about just that really hurt the team. Like the reception and the hatred and the death threats and everything that they received for giving an ending to one of the greatest trilogies in all time in games, that hurt. It was a sensitive topic. But they gave the fans what they wanted, and it's not like if they wouldn't have done that there wouldn't be death threats flying around about Cyberpunk, but it is just that dangerous, slippery slope about giving in to the loudest voices online.
Yeah.
It's tough. When I think about being angry about review scores, I think back to, when I was in high school and middle school, I absolutely was that person. Like I literally wrote an email to Greg Kasavin who's now creative director over at Supergiant, made Hades one of my favorite games of the year. And I wrote him an email when his review went live for Final Fantasy 12, because he gave it a 9 out of 10. And this is before I had played the game, but I sent him an email complaining that the score was so low. And he gave it a 9.
Yeah, well, I think you touch on a really important point, is that it sort of seems like game scores in general, like another conversation is how inflated are game scores, and like, oh, are we just gradually bringing them down? It'd be really interesting to see over time, like, right, what the average score is. Like, maybe we're just used to giving scores that are like, not perfect. And I think that that's fine. And it's, kind of more helpful, because it's like, okay, well, if everything's like a 9 or a 10, like, what is that, telling you?
So you think that game scores in general are going down with time and gamers aren't used to that?
I think that I mean, I don't know. I think that would be something interesting to look at.
I don't know. I think
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I think like GameSpot seems like it's had some pretty kind of been on the lower end of the spectrum over the last couple of years. And I'm curious, why that is. And as always, Jeff, you reviewed games for 6,000 years. It's just, you got to remember that these reviews aren't sacred. It is one person playing a game and what they think about the game. And so everybody posting comparisons about like, oh, Fallout 4 was buggy and they gave it a 9. And then they said Cyberpunk was buggy and they gave it a 7. That's outrageous. Like, yeah, they're different people. You have different experiences every time you play a game, everybody. What do you want here? There's no science. There's no math. It's, I like that game this much, I guess.
Well, and I really wish, like, as games media, we had a larger conversation about, like, the sort of this false narrative of objectivity in games reviewing.
Right.
Like, we're going to get to better games reviewing. Like, the point is not to be like, oh, everyone has like an objective opinion. Like, our opinions are obviously like very informed by our personal experiences with other games, but very subjective. But like, it's not about, it's not about removing the subjectivity. It's about being like aware of it. Right. And so I think maybe people haven't realized this before, that they're like actual singular voices who are writing these things. Oh.
Yeah. I think all of that is kind of touching on why I've kind of poo-pooed on the idea of review scores in general over the past, well, I guess year, since we started MinnMax. And it was kind of, that was the genesis of really thinking about this, because we had talked about how we would want to do reviews, and what, it was kind of just like a completely fresh, clean slate to start with, of like, what do we think is valuable and what's not. And it's kind of, it made me really reevaluate, the value of having review scores and this, like, I was at Game Informer for 10 years, and I was the feedback guy for almost all 10 years. I had 10 years of reading letters from angry people writing in who just fundamentally didn't understand this idea of review scores are subjective and they're opinions. And at Game Informer, we always kind of laughed at those people, and we would publish those letters saying, haha, this person doesn't understand. They think it's subjective. But at some point you have to look at that and think, like, well, what is going on here, and why don't people understand this? And I kind of think that review scores are fundamentally misleading, because we think of numbers and scales as being an objective thing. Like, if you're driving your car at 55 miles an hour, that's not an opinion. Like that is a way that we measure things. That's how we usually use numbers. And it's in rare instances like gymnastics in the Olympics or something, where we start to fold in opinions into what these numbers represent. And I think as soon as you do that, people see a number and they think, I know what a 9 is, or what a 9 should be. And this isn't, they got it wrong, And so now I'm going to write them an angry letter and feel bad about it for 20 years, like Hansen has. Yeah. Because we think these numbers are doing something that they're not actually doing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And another, I think, important point to this is that, like, as the general body of games writing grows, we're going to get a bunch of different kinds of writing, right? And like, I think for the longest time, games reviews writing was dominated by this question, should I buy this, right? But now it's like, we're starting to get a wider body of work, and we're getting more critics and writers who are sort of, using games reviews for other purposes. Like, okay, like, this is going to be a cultural analysis, or this is going to help us like shed light on like the larger, like insert X piece of media right here. And so it's like more like, I guess, like critical cultural criticism, where the author's intent might not be like, I don't want you to leave this thinking like, oh, this is not to tell you whether you should buy it or not. It's just to read something good about this game that's like really rigorous. And so that there's tension there as well.
I get it. I love review scores. I understand. I think you're right, Jeff. When it boils things down too much, it's silly. It implies objectivity. And it's probably just me being old fashioned, but like I love memorizing review scores and having that frame of reference of just, okay, you can talk for a long time, but what does that mean? How good is this game? Okay, here's a number, there's a takeaway. And maybe I just don't like reading and I just like looking at a quick number and moving on. But I understand that mentality of I like numbers and I don't want to click on a review and have people talking about larger cultural issues about just like, is the game good or not? And every review doesn't need to be a feature. I understand that, but it's just when that then blossoms into, and therefore I will find this person on Twitter and threaten their family. Like that's the part where we got a problem here. So Emily, how do we fix the internet?
We remove all the stupid people. I'm
okay,
not sure
great. Yeah, do you want to hit that button
start.
for us, please? We'd appreciate it. Ricky Winterborn says, with the Cyberpunk embargo weirdness going on, yeah, I guess we could address that. I mean, they sent out review code to a pretty select group of folks. They didn't send it out to influencers, or it seems like, God, I don't think Kind of Funny got a code. We certainly didn't get codes for Cyberpunk. I think Easy Allies did. It seemed really scattershot and limited. They were really trying to contain this sucker because it's going to be buggy. Anyways, with the Cyberpunk embargo weirdness going on, do you think companies have gotten too manipulative with their press strategies? Sony seems to have apexed the amount of hype possible by forcing press to follow staggered embargoes. First, you can talk about the controller, so everyone makes a video, then the menu, another round of videos. Does this frustrate you as content creators, or is it beneficial? It's frustrating.
I hate that shit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I hate that shit.
it's frustrating, but I don't know, maybe it's just we aren't as plugged in as we used to be about these trickling embargoes and stuff, and thanks to Patreon, it's much easier for us just to be like, whatever, we'll just talk about things when we get the things. Like we don't need to be, waiting for the next morsel to drop out of the feed.
Yeah, and along with that, it's like they can make these frustrating embargoes, but they can't make you write those stories if you don't want to write those stories. Like you don't have to do a story just on the controller and then match it up with whatever their embargo is. And I get that, like you said, we're in a good position where we don't have to worry about that as much as some other places. But I think every journalist has to kind of find that line and say, you know what, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this. I'll just wait and make the content that I want to make and put it out there when I can.
Right. But I think this ties into...
I guess I blame journalists more for that than I do the publishers. Like if you're going to send out advanced code for a game, then you're within your right to put whatever dumb restrictions you think are going to help you.
Yeah.
But then like everything else after that point is voluntary of whether you're going to jump through the hoops that they're putting out there.
Do you remember that weird thing? What was it, maybe 2 years ago, where Bethesda's like, we're not sending code ahead of time anymore? And everybody was outraged, rightfully, as a real anti-consumer move. But at the same time, it's like, they were entitled to do that. I mean, they were right. They didn't need it to help with the sales. They'll let people get out there and explore the game on their own. And obviously, consumers could use a heads up when something like Fallout 76 is coming their way, so it does have backlash. But I guess I'd imagine that is just out the window now that they're part of Microsoft in particular. It's like, I'd imagine Microsoft will want to get that review out to outlets earlier, even though Bethesda still has their internal PR and marketing team, so maybe they still have enough sway.
I mean, did that last long? Were they not sending out, like Doom and stuff?
Yeah,
earlier?
I think they went back on it inch by inch, but it was certainly a sign of, publishers can do whatever the hell they want and you can play ball or not. But if you want that game early, you got to jump through those hoops. But yeah, I think this ties into also just the complete BS, which is clearly insane, of the developers and publishers patching in stuff after the fact. it's like, oh, why are all these microtransactions being patched in about a month after the reviews go up? And there was even a debate, I remember, amongst people online, like, oh, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. It's like, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's very clearly what they're doing. Like, after Battlefront 2 exploded in a huge way because of those microtransactions, it's like, well, why take the risk? Let's just wait, and then we can patch in some BS microtransactions into Crash Team Racing. I think, was that an example of it, I believe? But yeah, of course that's what they're doing, is just trying to play the game the best that they can, and press is trying to play the game the best that they can, and sometimes it's anti-consumer, and it's frustrating. Anyways, hey, on a lighter note, Fred DeNovo writes in, Emily, and says, by the way, I think this is a softball, so let me know if it's not. Fred DeNovo writes in and says, we had a music-related discussion in the Discord today that you should chime in on. What kind of instrument is a piano?
It's a percussion instrument.
What?
It's and I think it's considered, I mean, obviously it's a keyboard instrument, but keyboards are lumped in with percussion in an orchestra. And I think it's because of the way the hammers hit the strings, but I could be wrong there.
Wait a minute.
Sense, because like xylophones are in the percussion section.
Yeah, all like xylophone, glockenspiel, marimba, vibes, all of that's in chimes, all those struck kinds of toned instruments are part of percussion as well.
That is mind-blowing. I feel like that was the earliest fun fact I ever learned in my life was, pianos are technically string instruments. And that's not true?
No, yeah, it's definitely not a string instrument because, I mean, I think that requires a bow or a pick, maybe, well, like guitar, I guess you'd consider as a string instrument. Yeah, so it's considered a percussion, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, sorry to put you on the spot, but
no, that's okay.
No.
I'd have to look it up now, but yeah.
You might have to look this up. When were pianos invented? It feels like they should have been invented in 1932 for how complicated they are. It's probably like 1412 or something crazy, right?
No, because there were harpsichords well into the 1700s, and so the predecessor to the piano would be like a clavichord or a forte piano, and those kind of were around in the early 1700s and really kind of started taking over, I'd say after 1750 kind of. So like the end of the Baroque era and into the classical era of music. Then we're getting into instruments that sound less like a harpsichord, which is those strings are plucked, right? So that's instead of a hammer hitting a string, like it's just how a piano operates. In a harpsichord, the strings are plucked. And so like that transitioned to forte piano, which was a hammer type mechanism. And then eventually the modern piano, but it did take time. And, so like when Mozart was writing, he was writing for like forte piano. So Mozart was alive until 1791. So 1750 something ish.
Okay.
He was born, I can't remember, 56, whatever. So in that era, harpsichord was transitioning to piano, and then it started to sound a lot more like a piano, but they didn't have 88 keys then either. So that happened later as well. So it was just a kind of this slow evolution.
It's such
Sorry
a
for that
thing.
long answer.
No, that's
this
fine.
is so much better than talking about Cyberpunk. I feel happy and relaxed right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Baroque period. Awesome. I love it. Yeah. Leica submits a comment and question saying, hey, CLCs, what you looking at? On that note, what game or media phrase do you constantly reference that people rarely understand?
Well, just like talking to my boyfriend and stuff, a lot of times, like I just use head and deck and be like, why'd they write that deck? That didn't make any sense. That's just like the sub headline. And I guess that's not like common knowledge.
Yeah, that's good. I last night, I forget what I was talking about, but I made some reference to like quality of life improvement or something, and like UI. My girlfriend's like, that's weird. What do you mean? Yeah. Quality of life in UI? She's like, I've never considered the phrase quality of life applying to UI. I was like, that is what that phrase is for in my mind.
Yeah. Embargo's another good one. Like people are like, what? What's an embargo?
Yep. Jeff, do you got one?
I thought this was like stuff that like quotes and things from movies.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. That totally works. Yeah.
Oh, well, mine came from you, which is the I don't think so. Holly Hunter
from Incredibles.
Yeah.
Leave saving the world
which,
to the boys.
Which just comes from sitting next to you for years.
Turns out people say the phrase, I don't think so, a lot. And you can't hear.
That's a great meme, though.
That's a good one.
Thank you, Anna. That's the greatest compliment ever.
Yeah. Hey, he had said for today's regular segment of what's on TikTok, that sound is very popular.
Is it really?
Yeah, that specific line.
Oh, real? Oh, geez. I didn't know that the internet loved it as much as I did. All right, great. Perfect.
Yeah, so there you go.
Isn't that weird? Like what becomes memeified? Like I remember playing Star Fox 64 when it came out with a friend of mine, and him like, a week after the game came out being like, do a barrel roll, and like joking about that. And the fact that he could pick that out and that it would become such a huge thing, it still blows my mind that like it didn't stand out that much in that original game. It's so weird how memes just can emerge so quickly.
The one thing that I say all the time that just every once in a while, a friend of mine who's not a gamer is like, what the hell? I say OP a lot.
Oh, sure.
I'll be like, that's OP as f***. She'll just be like, what are you talking about?
Poggers. I love gamer lingo. Like, can I say like I unironically like gamer speak?
Yeah, I would hope so.
Okay thing to say.
That's allowable.
Okay.
You're on a video game podcast. My name is Dan. Writes in and says, what is the hardest boss you fought this year, or what was your favorite boss fight this year?
My real one?
Dun, 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 dun. I think of, I'm kind of stuck a little bit in Yakuza Like a Dragon, and not in the spot that everybody says that I should be stuck in, but before that. But I'm fighting like a wrecking ball in that game, like 20 or so hours in. Do you know this spot, Anna? Okay, there's a couple different like construction things that you fight, which is very funny overall in that game, just to beat up a crane. But I am just having such a terrible time with it. And I think I just switched jobs. Everybody's like lower level than they should be and stuff. And so I went and I'm trying to grind in this dungeon. But as much as I love Yakuza, like it's a little bit rough structurally as an RPG. And so there's this dungeon you can go into to grind, but there's no way back out of it. So eventually there is, right? But where you start, you can't go back. And now there's just like impossible enemies at the end before the exit. And so I'm just stuck in this loop from hell. And so last night I just had to like give up on hours of grinding because I just couldn't get past the final barrier. That's it. As much as I love Yakuza, it's a little sticky at points.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Does anybody else have a boss this year that stands out?
I don't know how far I am in Hades yet, but the worm boss.
Oh, the bone hydra?
50 heads that one was giving me. I have beaten it once or twice now, but having to go through that entire grind every time.
Yeah.
He's the one that I get to, and it's like, it's still pretty iffy when I get to him.
I hate to tell you this, Jeff, but just you wait, buddy. You'll be begging for the bone hydra. I'm not that much further than you. Blake Berber says, I've been a Game Pass subscriber for a little while, and while the service is awesome, I have started to see a troubling issue. Similar to Netflix overload, my emotional buy-in has become so low since I'm not purchasing these games directly that I don't continue playing games that don't grab me in the first few hours. Do y'all feel like this is an issue with Game Pass? Would a different model be better for people like me? Like Audible, you get a certain amount of downloads per month with a tiered plan. Is Game Pass devaluing games?
I mean, it's interesting to look at other models of this, right? So like, I who knows, like it's hard to say because like, I think a lot of it is really individualized, like different developers, like they can get, so for example, like, like a signing bonus for like signing on to like a specific platform, and then they get compensated for that, like from Xbox or Microsoft. And so like, it can be case by case, like whether or not it's worth it to like a small indie developer.
Yeah.
But I mean, like games in general are probably like devalued, right? This is part of a larger conversation, but I imagine that that's not, if you can get whatever you want for free and just play it, that's not really, helping that.
Or seemingly for free. I do think there is a mentality of, I'll just wait for that to hit Game Pass. I think that's pretty pervasive at this point. Because I think, God, I just saw some stats today, I believe, about how Game Pass, I think, has doubled the subscriber base since last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Backstage Pass, but something like that. I mean, it is getting to the point where it's just, well, if you play games, it's stupid not to just have this ready to go. And then at that point, how many games are you going to end up buying that year? Probably not too many. Yeah, it's tough.
But specifically to what he's talking about, though, I guess like a long time ago, I kind of got out of that mentality of like, because I put money into a game, I'm going to keep on playing it. Like that isn't an incentive for me anymore. Even when I do buy a game, I still drop off of games very quickly. So I don't know that
I do that all the time.
I mean, I guess I guess that could be, in his case, a reason, Game Pass is the reason for that happening. But I feel like that's kind of also something that a lot of gamers will eventually transition to, because I think when you're a teenager, like that is definitely a thing of like, I bought this game, it's a piece of crap, but I spent $50 on it, so I'm going to keep on playing it. And at some point you get to the point where it's like, now the value is my hours of time that I actually have that I can put into games, and I'm less concerned with what I paid for it as opposed to how I'm spending my time.
Yeah, time is not money. Time is not money. It's a very different commodity.
Yeah. Sincerely, Eric. Hey, everybody. I was wondering, can you please show us your pets and tell us their names, please? Or share a favorite pet memory?
If you want, I could literally grab him. He's asleep in the background.
Yeah, I can go grab her. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go.
All right. And
She's gonna love this.
While everybody goes and grabs their cats, Jeff, what's your favorite pet memory?
Oh boy,
pets growing up.
We've always had. Well, we've had dogs, but my dad was a veterinarian, and so we always had a bunch of weird animals. Like we had a pigeon for a long time that someone just brought in because it had a broken wing, and so even after it healed, like he was an indoor pigeon at that point. Like he couldn't get released.
How long did you have a pet pigeon?
That was a long time. That was probably like 10 years because they live a surprisingly long time.
Wow.
But we had rabbits and all kinds of weird animals. We had rats.
Really? Just Noah's Ark is where you grew up?
Yep, pretty much.
She wants down, so I'm probably gonna put her down pretty quick. But this is June.
Hello, June. Smothering the microphone, but beautiful for the audio listeners. It's as beautiful as a lion.
She's a tub. She's really sweet though. She comes outside and we have bonfires in the back, and she'll just come and hang out, and it's pretty fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's see the baby that Anna has.
So he's like, I feel kind of bad for him because he was just sleeping, but he's a good boy. This is Pepe. He is not named after the meme. He is named after the pasta dish.
That's good.
And we adopted him. His name was Sergeant Fenyx beforehand.
That's pretty cool.
Which we changed, unfortunately. I'm sorry, buddy.
Sergeant Fenyx Rising.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he did it first.
All these cats are miserable. They don't want to be shown on camera.
June just took the opportunity to go over to her dish and eat a few more.
Oh, perfect.
Dots, as I call them, little round nuggets of food.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, Leo's cats are always jumping in camera. It's nice. It's nice to have a dynamic background like that. I just got Christmas
I was talking
lights.
to Leo before one of the Goaty streams, and we just check in on each other's cats whenever we do a Goaty stream. And he was like, "Yeah, my youngest has been keeping us up." Like he's talking about, like a human, but it's a cat.
They think they're people.
Yeah.
Richard McLaughlin says, hey, cohorts, last week during Get a Load of This, you talked about Xbox running emulators. As an Xbox developer, with Opposwitch, I thought I'd answer some of your questions. Is it easy to switch between modes? Yes. It just requires a reboot between either dev mode or retail mode. Will you get banned? I'd say no. While running in dev mode, you can't run any retail games or apps. It's not a cheating loophole. It's a way for developers to run and test their own code. If you choose to install emulation software, you accept the risk of installing non-retail software. If you're new to emulation, don't start with your Xbox. Just start with a Raspberry Pi. Very sage advice, but cool. Thanks for the research. Jonathan Anderson says, per the cannibalism discussion last week, do your significant others and or family members listen to the show on a weekly basis? And if so, how many are concerned now? Yeah, Emily, this is normally a cannibalism podcast. It's rare that we're talking about video games for the full show.
Great.
Jeff, has your wife ever listened to this podcast?
I think probably like the first episode, and that was enough for her.
Yeah.
She actually watched enough of our early videos to point out that you will play with your beard a lot.
Oh, yes. Well, as you can tell, that's why I have so many things to play with, like this ball and then a bunch of coins, because I need something to fidget with. And
yeah. She said that was very annoying. But
over my voice. Wow, that's surprising.
Yep.
I just get the feedback where like my family, when I first started doing, I guess, the MinnMax stuff in particular, I guess going back to Game Informer, but I got a surprisingly similar message from a lot of my family, which is they would check it out every once in a while. And for multiple people, they would say, I was really bracing it for it to be terrible and embarrassing. And it wasn't that bad. That's the takeaway, is like, we thought this was going to be you mumbling into a mic for a couple hours. But like, there are times when you sound like a real broadcaster. Like,
Thanks for the support.
Yeah, I really love it. That's nice. Yeah. Emily, do you have a lot of fans that listen that are also friends and family and all that stuff?
My parents no, they never listen to they'll listen to me on the radio in the morning, but they don't listen to my podcasts at all. I do have a podcast where I have a co-host, and her family listens and all her friends listen, and I've got friends that listen to the podcast too, but not family. Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
It keeps us all humble, though, really.
That's right. That's right. They'll really tear you down. Anna, anybody in your life that listens?
My mom is like really sweet. She definitely watches every episode of Refreshed, and then she'll listen to some of the MinnMax show, and then like it's really cute. Like, I have a younger brother who like is on like a league team, and they stream, and she watches all of his games, which I think is really cute.
Oh, wow.
So she's like very supportive. She just like wants to be like, yeah, like video games, like this is an okay thing for you to do, because so many people are like, what is this?
You have to grow beyond Pikachu at some point in your life, Anna.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I disagree.
True. That's true. Timmy D says, firstly, a huge thank you to the MinnMax community for how much love they've shown the Synced Up podcast, which was a sponsor last month. Thank you to the Synced Up podcast. Go over and send them some nice words. My question is in regard to the recent Nintendo controversies between shutting down the Smash Bros. Melee tournament, the Big House, shutting down the US Open Splatoon stream because the top teams changed their names to support Melee, shutting down Etikons, the custom Joy-Con company who raises money for mental health in gaming in memory of Etika, and now finally blocking complete soundtracks for Ocarina of Time, Mario 64, Mario Kart Wii, and many others. Where is the line between morality and legality when it comes to these issues? Is there a way we can hold Nintendo accountable for these decisions? And how do we keep people from forgetting about it once Nintendo announces another Smash character? It's a lot of stuff, a lot of anger towards Nintendo these days. Anna, do you have thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit on the episode of Refresh when I was talking to those Smash community organizers or tournament organizers. And, it's, even from them, they recognize, they're like, look, like when you look at the number of people who have bought Smash, we're such a small portion of that consumer base. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't expect Nintendo to pay attention to us or to cater to us, because like, there's like an understanding that it's kind of like it's pretty niche. And so, like at the end of the day, like we have to acknowledge, Nintendo can do with its products what it wants. And Nintendo's always been pretty, specific about how it wants its characters to see and how it wants its intellectual property to be seen. And so, like is it the best thing for fostering fan community and fan made stuff? Like, no. Probably not, but you're not going to get as many like fan made things, right? Like the Joy-Cons, like the Edicons.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's fine, especially if you have a company that markets to kids. You probably want to really aggressively control what surrounds your brand and what people use your games for.
Yeah. It's frustrating for sure. MLA has a question, and I'll just aim this directly at Jeffem like a laser rifle. MLA asks, would you accept $2,000 right now in return for being cursed to always accidentally drop the shampoo every time you're in your shower for the rest of your life?
No.
Yeah.
You gotta bump it up for a curse, for Christ's sake.
Okay.
I could eventually I would die, right? Because I would slip on shampoo sooner or later.
But if you could time it correctly so you wouldn't be stubbing your toes on it, you'd like be jumping out of the way every time.
For $2,000?
I know. Jeffem always says this. He $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, what about 20?
200.
200,000 you would drop your shampoo.
If you're going to curse me, if I'm going to accept a curse for the rest of my life,
yeah,
it's got to be 6 digits.
All right, 6-digit curse. That's his motto. He has the license plate to prove it. I bet it would just feel weird to be cursed too. I wouldn't like it.
About how many times you're going to shower too before now and the end of time. Ideally, thousands, right? So it's just like, no. You got to give me more than $1 per shower or something like that if I'm dropping the shampoo every freaking time.
Hear me out though. Hear me out. What if this just pushes you to become like a really nice bubble bath kind of person? Like, doesn't that sound nice?
Well, it's in the fine print, but if you take a bubble bath, then it rains full shampoo bottles on your head. So it seems uncomfortable.
The corners are just like hitting your head.
I was thinking about, how many times I've showered in my life and hopefully how many times I can shower. Oh, I pray I can keep showering for thousands of times. But Jeffem, have you ever thought about counting how many times your kid does something? Because you're at like the starting line. Jeffem has a new kid, Emily. You could count how many showers that kid takes, how many pizzas that kid eats, which I know is something you've done before personally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wouldn't you want, and like save that data, you creep, till they're like 18, and then it'd be like, by the way,
sell it.
Yeah, sell it to Google.
Yeah. I'll just wait until Google's tracking that stuff for us anyway. Yeah. Because actually we do have like a feeding journal, because you have to write down, like how often they're eating and like when they're eating and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's impossible. Like, we're both so sleep deprived that it's like, okay, we haven't written anything down for 8 hours, and then you're just like fudging the books. like I'm cooking the books here, just like, well, we probably fed him at 4 and then again at 6. I don't know. It looks good if I write this down.
You got to stop feeding your baby fudge, Jeffem. It's not what babies should be eating.
Hey, he's not complaining.
All fudge diet. Nick L, what is the very bathroom themed episode? What is the video game equivalent of watching a plugged up toilet fill with water and praying it doesn't overflow?
Cyberpunk discourse.
No! That is
long cutscenes. Just any game with a long cutscene, I'm going to hate immediately.
And so that's that feeling of like, oh my God, this could get bad. So it's specifically the emotions, which, God, if I had a nickel for every time I was watching a toilet slowly fill and just praying to God it doesn't overflow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like that's at least 20% of my life.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, the cutscenes thing, but it's that feeling in a game of, oh my God, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Oh crap, it happened. And
I see.
I was playing Age of Calamity and ran into like a game-breaking bug where I had played through like a 30-minute long level almost, or maybe like 20 minutes through a level, and I just watched Mifa slowly get killed like by like these low-tier moblins.
I think you're right. You know what it is? It is that feeling of like the weird hitch, and it's like, is the game going to get out of this or not?
Yeah.
And you're just waiting, and it's like, oh my God, no, it's fully broken. I'm gonna have to do a hard reset on this sucker. That is the toilet filling up with poo poo and pee pee.
Pee-pee, poo-poo. Sorry,
Anyways, Hyperlight Blossom. What's Anna, what was that? Why did you just?
I'm sorry. I'm in the mood today. I don't know what it is. It must be the caffeine.
Yeah, blame it. Hyperlight Blossom says, "What's the underdog in the industry you're rooting for?" For Kyle, I'd imagine it's Stadia. Yeah, that underdog Google. For me, it's Anthem next with the circumstances at BioWare. I hate when topics like these or Fallout 76 or Avengers come up and people hurl insults. It was funny the first time, but ideally, shouldn't we want everything to succeed? Yeah, I mean, it is. It's rough when these games just become a punchline about like, Anthem, waka waka. Yeah, the biggest underdog in the industry you're rooting for. Does anybody have any thoughts on this one?
Consumer, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. When you deal with some of these companies.
I feel that way. I'm like, just leave us all in the dust with your $1,000 VR setup and all that. It's like, yeah. Yeah,
the 1-2 punch of get a new TV, get a new console. I guess underdog, it's any big indie still going for it that hasn't been gobbled up at this point. And specifically Harmonix. I'm always rooting for Harmonix. Just, God, if they could just get that Fortnite level success. Imagine if they just had a hit that was a fraction of like what Epic pulled off with Fortnite, and just knowing in a safe way that Harmonix is going to be around. Oh, it'd be so refreshing. But even companies like Remedy, like any big indies that are, have a lot of mouths to feed. That's probably the wrong analogy, but for the developers still working there and just praying they can connect the next big project.
I'd say any little indie, when it's like, one person making a game that, they're putting all this time into it, and they don't really have to sell that many for it to be a success and like to really launch a career out of it. Mm-hmm. But it's that matter of, I'm going to make this and then I'm going to release it into the ocean of other indie games on these platforms, and just hope enough people see it and, like get it bumped up in Steam's algorithm or
right.
Like the Nintendo Switch store or whatever. Like, those are the guys that I hope have a chance.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like Rich McLaughlin with Opposwitch, or even, Charles McGregor with Hyperdot, which is a game, we all like, and it's nominated for a Game Award, for Christ's sake, and it's still like not that many Steam reviews. Like, it's still shocking that like even with all that, it's like, please check out Hyperdot, it's cool. Greg Laval says, hey everybody, you mentioned board games on MinnMax, and given here in the UK we're also stuck at home over Christmas, can you recommend some? Don't spoil any Christmas surprises you might have planned, but a few hints about games to play with the family. 10 and 7-year-olds, Jeffem. Or just for me and the wife would be appreciated.
10 and 7-year-olds.
Yeah, that's
Dude, Yahtzee all day.
Ooh.
Yahtzee all day. All day. I'm not going to Yahtzee, get out some Settlers of Catan. Maybe not for the 7-year-old, but I'm just saying.
That's
Yahtzee and some poker.
Wait, you just keep throwing in more games. 10 and 7. I mean, there's the Pokemon tabletop game, which I will defend, the Master Trainer. I think it's really good. But I don't know, Jeff, do you have any good kids games? Something like Sushi Go, Sushi Party? That'd be all right?
Yeah. I don't know if we've talked about it before, but Ice Cool is a fun game for kids because it's a dexterity game where you're kind of flicking these little penguins, which are kind of like Weebles, they kind of have a ball bearing in them. And I think that would be goofy enough and lighthearted enough for kids. But for other like Christmas games that you're going to play with adults, I always think like the Codenames level of, can support like a big group of people, or just one that we've talked about a million times. Like my wife and I did play Just One last year during Christmas with all of her siblings and stuff. And that's
nice.
A nice low level one where people don't have to focus too much, but
that is a good one for the family. Or even I think something like Concept worked with like my younger nephews, where you're just like describing these concepts. That's still one of my favorite games. Bo Bakken has an interesting one saying, dearest, oh boy, Dearest Sir Baron Toot and the Mucklucks, you got us. My 8-year-old daughter has been telling me how she and her classmates play a version of Among Us during recess, and I think it's kind of awesome. They line up with their eyes closed, and a teacher pats one on the head, quietly choosing an imposter. Then as they walk around the playground, the imposter kills by sticking their tongue out at someone without anyone else noticing. The murdered kid has to immediately fall to the ground until someone else notices, which of course triggers a voting meeting on who is the imposter. That is such a fun idea. Yeah, because that killing thing is tough. Like, how do you simulate that? And that tongue move, I think, is a really smooth idea. Hang on. Ray Loaza says, I played this as a kid. So this
Mafia is a game that exists. That's what Among Us is based on.
Well, yeah, I know. But is this how you killed in Mafia, was sticking out your tongue? I've never played like the original Mafia. I've just played Avalon and stuff like that. But I don't,
you close your eyes. There's like paper voting. Or you point. There's like usually like a person, like a cognizant, like someone who is leading it, like a dungeon master. Right.
Yeah. No, that checks out. Donnie says, hey friends, what's something you learned about yourself this year? For myself, I've had to come to terms with the fact that I don't always handle isolation as well as I think. And I've had to find new ways to occupy my time outside. Video games haven't been enough, so I've gotten into painting minifigs, and I've even been writing a novel. My God. It's been a challenging year, but I'm glad to say I've found some ways to grow. Something you've learned about yourself this year.
I don't even know where to start with something like that.
Yeah, it's tough. I think probably just that I have my limit. Like in my mind, I'm always like, I'm fine just getting depressed by myself and just playing games for way too long in isolation. And then this year is like, specifically like the last month, I talked about it on our show, Better Quest, but it's just kind of my breaking point of like, all right, I'm ready to scream. Let me out. I've hit my limit. I thought I was, like I had infinite patience in this arena, but not quite. Jeff, I might imagine it's just a full book's worth here with having a kid.
Yeah, that I'm capable of being a father, and also that I like being a father, I guess, would be the way to put it.
What were you most worried about that's been relieved in your mind?
I think we talked about it briefly before, but just the idea of like that, oh my God moment, like I'm totally enamored with this kid, and whether that actually exists or whether I would feel that. And when I did it, it was a relief, because you got to go through a lot of shit when you're taking care of a kid. But, like every time I look at him, I'm still happy to do it. So
that's very sweet. How many parents do you think feel nothing? Are you just a sociopath at that point? Or do you think there are good-hearted people that aren't sociopaths that have a kid and just have that feeling of, oh my God, I'm not feeling as much as I expected?
I think that's probably more common than we think, but
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. I read a lot of advice columns. It's one of my guilty pleasures. So some of them are parenting columns, which is funny because I don't have children, nor will I, but it's just like it's a strange thing that I think happens to some people. Yeah.
What do you get out of reading all those?
No answers. No, it's weird. I know I'm not alone. I know a lot of people like to read them. And I think sometimes it's just comforting to read about other people's struggles and problems. It just helps you to realize like, oh, I've had a similar issue like that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's fun to see the same people write into different columns or the same questions kind of, and how different columnists answer, especially how I think columns have changed over the last decade. Like I could go on and on.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It's like one of the things I do to pass time sometimes at work, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, I think it's time for something we like to call... Wait, no, it's not time for that yet. We need to figure out what our question of the week is.
I might have to go. I'm so sorry to duck out, but is it okay if I sneak out?
Yeah, but you have to help us choose the question of the week.
Oh. I liked the question about... Probably, yes, the underdog question.
The underdog question.
Yep.
All right.
That's a good question. Yep.
Everybody signing off on underdog question?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Congratulations to, of course, Hyperlight Blossom. We will ship you out the Watam soundtrack. Speaking of underdogs, Phenomena, that studio that developed Watam. Okay,
Nice.
Emily, thank you for joining us and talking
Thank
a whole
you
lot
so
about
much.
music. We appreciate it. What
Always
would
a
you like
pleasure.
to What would you like to plug?
Please check out both of my podcasts, Level with Emily. You can find us on levelwithemily.com, also Patreon, Podbean, iTunes, all of that. If you're into video games, which you probably are. The other podcast I do is called Scores and Pours, and it's about classical music and wine and beer and spirits, because my
That's
co-host
awesome.
is an expert sommelier, and she's awesome and super fun. And I love things now for drinking that I never thought I would love, and I've learned a ton, which has been super fun. So we have a lot of fun with that. And again, that's called Scores and Pours. So 2 podcasts, check them out. I'm on the jazz station every morning here in Minneapolis from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we will be releasing Half-Life Alyx Project someday. I promise.
It's the
It will
Half-Life
happen.
3 of your podcast. It is coming at some point.
In true Valve fashion. It will happen.
Perfect.
someday.
Emily, thank you for lending us your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. I love you very much. Thank you. And do I have to clap myself out? Is that
Yes,
something-
legally and scientifically, you have to clap out.
Okay, here we go. Poof.
All right, now it's time for something we call Get a Load of This. Jeff, I want you to wow us.
Get a load of this. I don't know if it's going to wow you. I'm not legally obligated to wow anyone. But there's a new documentary series on Netflix. It's not very good. I'll say that up front.
Great.
But it's
Love it.
the Christmas movies that we grew up on or love or something like that. It's kind of it's like a riff off of their toy documentary series that they did. But one interesting tidbit from it was one of the episodes is on Elf, and they were talking about like it's actually pretty interesting, the entire series or the entire story of how they actually made that show. But Jon Favreau, the director of it, was super insistent on all of the scenes where Will Ferrell is interacting with the elves. He was insistent on he didn't want to use CG for any of that. And so they're all forced perspective shots. And so basically they would have to like build up a scene and the set so that Will Ferrell was closer to the camera and everyone else was farther back in order to make it look like everyone else was really small in the scene.
Perfect. Practical effects, baby. It's awesome.
Yeah. And the director of photography or whatever on it said that no one has done these kind of shots for like 50 years. So they had to learn how to do them all like as they were going. And so like, as an example, like the scene where Will Ferrell's sitting on Bob Newhart's lap.
Yeah.
Bob Newhart, because he's his father or whatever. Like they had a kid with, like a 4-year-old kid sitting on a chair and like laying back on like a board that went behind him, and Will Ferrell was sitting on top of his legs, and then Bob Newhart was sitting like 10 feet behind him
weird.
in his own chair, and they just lined up the camera so that it looks like he's sitting on that. And they show a couple different examples like that, but they said that when they started the first scene that they tried to set up like that, it took them all day to set up and they didn't actually get anything filmed. So they had to go and hire an entire second production crew who would come in at night and would spend all night setting up the scenes for the next day for them to shoot these absurd shots. So they said there were like 45 different shots that they had to do this forced perspective optical illusion stuff for.
That's crazy.
And so that is worth watching the entire episode for, just for those behind the scenes examples.
It's crazy to think of Jon Favreau to go from like insisting on practical effects to now being the showrunner and writer for Mandalorian, where it's just like they're just sitting in front of a giant TV screen to film every scene in that show almost. It's crazy.
Well, what are you going to do? People change.
That's right. Anna?
He's taken the full George Lucas arc there of directing.
That's right. Anna?
I got someone animated a Discord argument as a Phoenix Wright scene. And so it's a Discord argument between who would win in a fight between a gorilla and a bear. And it's just like a long like written out like as if it were programmed, as if it were to take place in Fenyx, right? Ace Attorney game.
Yeah.
With all the sound progression and everything. And
that's perfect.
Like, it's incredible. It's really fun and cute.
Who wins?
You have to watch it.
Oh my God, there's links below. Killing it.
There you go.
Hey, get a load of this, everybody. There is Capcom's, not Capcom's, the Monster Hunter movie is apparently coming out next week. And the director, our dear friend who also directed the Resident Evil movies, Paul W.S. Anderson, he said that the idea of having the military be a focus and how the start of the film is they're actual members of the military that go to the Monster Hunter world, apparently that came from Metal Gear. He said, quote, "I was very influenced by a crossover Monster Hunter had done with Metal Gear Solid. This is great imagery to juxtapose a man with a machine gun against the creatures." So it's bizarre that the framing of the Monster Hunter movie came from Portable Ops and Metal Gear, but of course everything's connected. Do you have one from the community, from the wonderful Discord,
I do.
Jeff?
Get a load of this. This one is from Dylan in the community, and it is a YouTube video by Eric Elliott, and the title is "What It's Like to Be a Computer in an Interview with GPT-3," and basically it's like an interview that a guy does with the leading edge of an artificial intelligence system. And so he would type in the text would come back, they would run that through an avatar system that creates a very scarily looking actual human being, and they have an entire conversation back and forth. And it's just an interesting look at how far that technology has gone and how it will destroy us all one day.
That sounds great.
Probably sooner than you think.
Perfect. Speaking of sooner than you think, we have the MinnMax Awards coming up next week. The rest of December is going to be a lot of debates about the games of 2020 here in this podcast feed. We'd always appreciate the help sharing the show. Next week, we're having the MinnMax Awards, which are all of our categories. And then for our top 10 games of the year, technically 2 10s is how we rank these. Those episodes are going to be the 24th and the 31st. So the rest of the month is going to be a lot of awards and debates. And then we'll let the community give their feedback and share their communal top 10 games of the year list. That'll be January 7th on that episode. So ask us in the Discord or on Twitter if you have any more questions about how we're going to structure stuff this year, but it should be a fun time. Also, you can follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MinnMax Show. I was streaming myself playing Hades the other day. And Anna, you were thinking about streaming some Ori?
Yeah. I'll be streaming Ori on Friday afternoon. Right? I think we said about 3 p.m. It'll be a nice, lazy afternoon. Love to hang out with folks, so come through. Yeah, follow us on Twitch. Also, people in the Backstage Pass, Ray Luaza mentioned that it was Peace Walker, not Portable Ops, with the Monster Hunter crossover. I'm sorry, Ray Luaza. I think you're right. Hey, Anna, on Slack, I sent you all of our wonderful $50 supporters. Do you want to read down that sucker? Yeah, let's do it. Thanks to all the following Patreon supporters for their generous support of MinnMax at the $50 tier. Get your name. Oh, get your name right here. All right. Thank you, too. I'm going to try to do it in one breath.
Okay.
PrettyGoodPrinting.com, Rich McLaughlin's BeatenDownBrian. I am 8-Put, This Week in Video Games, Jawarhello, Mirko Arico-Torreno, Chris Logan, Zachary Pligge, Rebekah Lang, Mark Seliga, Starkiller, Ludwig Roque, Andrew Valla, Jesse Vitelli, Super Serious Sam, Thomas Hoster, Euro, Spiral in Your Eyes, Richard Smuts, Clint Farley, Preetham Yalagada, Clayton Myers, Spider Dan, Zach Eink, Steve Bamdad, and Slick Nick. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
That's hard.
There's a lot
That's an undervalued job.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of letters in there. Thanks to all of our supporters. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next week for the big MinnMax Awards debate. Be good, have fun, let's go.